The sun dipped low behind the neatly trimmed hedges of Maplewood Estates, casting long shadows across the manicured lawns. Alex leaned against the wooden fence that separated his small pasture from the cul-de-sac, watching his bull, Duke, graze peacefully. The neighborhood had always been a sanctuary of calm. Quiet streets, polite neighbors, and strict but fair HOA rules that kept everything in pristine order. For years, Alex had enjoyed the predictable rhythm of Maplewood. Morning joggers waving hello, children playing hopscotch on sidewalks, and the soft hum of sprinklers keeping the gardens lush. His life here was simple, almost idyllic. But tonight, something felt off. Earlier that week, the HOA board had announced a new member, Karen Phillips, the woman who had a reputation miles away for being a stickler, a rule enforcer with an iron fist. From the moment she arrived, whispers spread like wildfire. Karen? She's a nightmare, Mrs. Simmons from Next. Dower had said over the fence. I heard she fines people for leaving their trash cans out too long. Don't get me started, muttered Mr. Patel. She's that kind of person who loves the sound of her own authority. Alex didn't want to believe the worst. Maybe Karen was just a firm believer in rules. Maybe she would bring some order. But as dusk settled in, a strange unease wrapped around the neighborhood like a thick fog. The streetlights flickered on, casting pools of yellow light on the sidewalks. Alex wiped sweat from his brow and turned back toward his house. As he stepped, inside a faint sound caught his attention, soft footsteps outside near the community clubhouse at the far end of the street. Curious, he stepped back out, careful to stay in the shadows. The clubhouse, usually dark and locked tight after hours, had a faint glow seeping through the windows. The quiet murmurs of voices floated through the air. Alex's heart pounded. Who was there this late? The clubhouse wasn't supposed to open until morning. He scanned the darkness until he spotted a lone figure moving stealthily near the back door. It was Karen. She glanced nervously over her shoulder as if she knew she shouldn't be there. But instead of leaving, she pulled out a set of keys and unlocked the door with practiced ease. The door creaked open, and Karen slipped inside. Alex's mind raced. Why was Karen trespassing after hours? The HOA meetings had been dry and dull, but this felt different, like a secret plan unfolding under the cover of night. He thought about calling someone but hesitated. If Karen was breaking rules, what else might she be up to? And more importantly, was this just the beginning? As the night deepened, the faint glow from the clubhouse windows brightened, accompanied by muffled laughter and distant music. Alex's fingers tightened around the fence rail. Something was coming, a storm disguised as a party, right in the heart of his peaceful neighborhood. And no one was prepared for what was about to happen next. By midnight, the once silent clubhouse had transformed into something unrecognizable. Behind the freshly locked doors, Karen Phillips had thrown open the gates to a secret party, an unauthorized wild gathering right in the heart of Maplewood Estates. The sound of booming music pulsed through the neighborhood like an unwelcome thunderclap, shattering the peace Alex and his neighbors had grown accustomed to. Alex stood just beyond the perimeter, eyes narrowed against the dark, ears straining, to catch snippets of the chaos inside. He had seen the glow, heard the laughter. He knew Karen was breaking every rule the HOA had fought so hard to enforce, yet here she was, flaunting her authority with reckless abandon. Lights flashed from within the clubhouse, painting the nearby trees in wild colors, neon greens, blues, and reds. Music thumped so loudly it seemed to vibrate the very air. Alex's heart hammered, a mixture of anger and disbelief swelling inside him. How could she risk it all like this? Who was even invited? As he scanned the shadows, he noticed a group of unfamiliar faces slipping in through the side door. Strangers, rather than neighbors. People Alex had never seen in Maplewood Estates, laughing loudly and carrying drinks. This wasn't a neighborhood gathering. This was a full-blown, unsanctioned party. From the edge of the street, Alex's phone buzzed with text messages from neighbors. "Is that music coming from the clubhouse? Who let Karen throw a party? This can't be legal." His fingers trembled as he typed a quick message to the HOA president, Mrs. Rodriguez, but it went unanswered. Alex clenched his jaw. Karen wasn't just breaking the rules. She was challenging the entire community, daring anyone to stop her. Suddenly, a sharp knock came from behind him. He spun around, his eyes meeting those of Mrs. Simmons, his nosy but well-meaning neighbor. "They're going to ruin everything," she whispered, her voice trembling with worry. "If the board finds out, this could tear the whole neighborhood apart." Alex nodded grimly. "I don't think Karen cares. She's using this to show she's in control. But what happens if the police get involved?" Mrs. Simmons shuddered. "We can't let it get that far." They both stared at the clubhouse, the music growing louder and more chaotic by the minute. Then came the first sign that the night was about to spiral out of control. A sudden crash echoed through the air, followed by screams and startled shouts. From inside, Alex's breath caught. "What was that?" Mrs. Simmons gasped. Alex's eyes darted toward the faint glow near his property line. Something large moved in the shadows, something that didn't belong. He hurried toward the fence where Duke, his enormous bull, usually grazed quietly. But tonight, Duke was missing. Alex's heart sank. Had Duke escaped? Was the bull somehow involved in whatever was happening inside the clubhouse? His mind raced with possibilities. Duke had always been gentle, but out of his pen and spooked by the noise and crowd, he could become unpredictable. Alex hurried toward the pasture, adrenaline sharpening his senses. As he reached the fence, the booming music suddenly seemed to fade beneath a growing roar, a deep, guttural bellow that sent chills down his spine. From the darkness, Duke emerged into the street, his massive frame silhouetted by the flashing party lights. The bull's eyes gleamed with an odd mix of curiosity and unease. The partygoers inside barely noticed the unexpected guest at first, too caught up in their own chaos. But the moment Duke stepped closer to the clubhouse doors, the entire scene shifted. Suddenly, the wild party was on the brink of turning into a disaster no one could control. Alex stared at Duke, heart pounding. This night, this secret party, was about to get a whole lot more interesting. Duke's massive hooves thundered against the asphalt as he stepped fully into the street, his breath visible in the cool night air. The sudden, heavy presence of the bull sent a ripple of startled gasps and cries from the partygoers inside the clubhouse. But most were too distracted by the music and drinks to notice immediately. Alex's heart hammered wildly as he raced to the fence, calling out to Duke with the urgency of a man chasing a runaway storm. "Duke, come on, boy, get back." But Duke didn't stop. Instead, the bull paused for a moment, nostrils flaring as he sniffed the chaotic air around the clubhouse. His ears twitched at the thumping bass and shouting voices, and then, with an almost purposeful swagger, he began to move closer. Inside, the party was escalating. Karen stood near the bar, a glass of wine in hand, clearly pleased with herself. She waved dismissively at a neighbor who dared to question the noise. "This is what the neighborhood needs," she declared, voice loud enough to cut through the music. "A little fun, a little excitement. You all should be thanking me." Suddenly, the clubhouse doors burst open. The crowd froze, their faces turning toward the looming shape of Duke, framed in the neon glow. He was magnificent and terrifying. His horns curved like crescent moons, and his dark eyes gleamed with fierce intelligence. Someone screamed, "Get him out of here! Someone call animal control!" But before panic could fully set in, Duke stepped forward with surprising grace. Instead of rampaging, he carefully navigated through the scattered chairs and spilled drinks, his gaze fixed on Karen. Karen's confident smile faltered. "What is that thing doing here?" she stammered, taking a cautious step back. Alex pushed through the crowd, desperate to reach Duke before things spiraled out of control. "Duke, calm down!" "It's okay, boy," he called, voice steady but urgent. But Duke ignored him, standing tall and still as if he understood every word, every tension in the room. The party guests scrambled, some backing toward the exits while others whipped out, their phones recording the surreal scene. Karen's eyes narrowed, her facade cracking. "This is ridiculous. Someone take that animal out," she barked. Before anyone could move, Duke lowered his head and let out a powerful bellow that echoed through the neighborhood streets. The sound was primal and commanding, a clear message of disruption. The music stopped abruptly, replaced by stunned silence. In that silence, something shifted. Karen's dominance in the room faltered as eyes turned from her to the bull, the unexpected wild guest who refused to be ignored. Alex stepped beside Duke, putting a calming hand on the bull's massive shoulder. "We need to get him back home," Alex said quietly, locking eyes with Karen. "Before this gets out of control." Karen sneered. "You're the one responsible for this mess. If your bull ruins my party, you'll be paying the price." Alex's jaw tightened. "This isn't just about a party," he said. "This is about respect. For the neighborhood, for the people, and for the rules you're breaking." Karen scoffed but said nothing. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the back of the clubhouse. Someone had knocked over a table laden with drinks. Panic flared as guests shouted and surged toward the exits. In the chaos, Duke stepped back, sensing the fear around him. Alex grabbed the bull's rope, securing it around Duke's neck with practiced ease. "Come on, boy, let's get you home." With a final glance at the disarrayed crowd, Alex led Duke away from the clubhouse, the night air thick with tension and unanswered questions. As they disappeared into the darkness, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning, and that Karen's reckless party would have consequences far beyond a single wild night. The morning sun rose over Maplewood Estates, casting a golden glow on streets still bearing the scars of last night's chaos. Empty cans, shattered glass, and strewn decorations cluttered the sidewalks, stark reminders that the neighborhood's peace had been shattered. Inside the clubhouse, Karen Phillips sat alone, her polished exterior cracked and vulnerable. Her carefully crafted image of control was now in ruins. The unauthorized party had spiraled beyond anything she could manage, and the unexpected arrival of Duke, the massive bull, had turned her moment of triumph into a disaster. The memory of Duke's thunderous bellow still echoed in her mind, a challenge she couldn't dismiss. The party guests had fled in panic, some muttering about calling the police or animal control. Karen's phone was flooded with angry messages and complaints from neighbors. She could feel the HOA board's gaze piercing through her like daggers. Outside, the neighborhood buzzed with whispered conversations. "Did you see that bull?" Mrs. Simmons gushed to a group of neighbors on her porch. "It was like something out of a movie." Alex stood by his fence, his eyes scanning the clubhouse zone. Duke was safely back in his pen, munching calmly on fresh hay as if nothing had happened. But Alex knew better. The bull's appearance was just the spark in a powder keg. A sudden knock at Alex's door jolted him from his thoughts. It was Mr. Patel, a fellow homeowner and longtime member of the HOA board. "Alex," Mr. Patel began, his voice low and serious. "We need to talk about what happened last night." Alex motioned him inside. In the living room, the two men sat facing each other, the tension thick in the air. "The board is furious," Mr. Patel said bluntly. "Karen broke several rules through an unauthorized party, and now this bull incident. It's a mess." Alex nodded. "She was reckless, and she endangered the neighborhood." Mr. Patel sighed heavily. "The problem is Karen is on the board now. She's not going down without a fight. Some members want to cover this up to avoid scandal." Alex's jaw clenched. Cover it up? That's not right. Before Mr. Patel could respond, a loud cheer erupted outside. They rushed to the window. Across the street, neighbors had gathered, holding signs that read, "Save our neighborhood," and "No more Karen." The bull somehow had become a symbol of resistance. Karen, isolated and under fire, stood by the clubhouse entrance as neighbors confronted her. The once intimidating HOA enforcer now faced the community's growing anger. "You can't just do whatever you want," Mrs. Simmons shouted. "This is our home." Karen's lips curled in a thin smile. "I'm trying to keep order here," she replied sharply. "Sometimes you have to break a few rules for the greater good." Alex watched the scene unfold, a strange mix of satisfaction and concern stirring inside him. The community was waking up. But would this conflict tear them apart? Later that afternoon, as the neighborhood held an emergency HOA meeting, Karen arrived, determined to defend her actions. The room buzzed with tension as neighbors aired their grievances, from loud music to safety concerns to the bull's dramatic appearance. Karen spoke with fierce conviction, insisting her party was meant to bring the community together. But as the meeting dragged on, cracks appeared in her story. Whispers spread about hidden motives, personal vendettas, and power plays. Alex sat quietly, realizing the battle for Maplewood Estates was far from over. As the meeting ended with no clear resolution, Karen's eyes met Alex's across the room. A silent challenge passed between them, a promise that the war for control had only just begun. Outside, the bull stood calmly in the pasture, unaware of the turmoil his presence had unleashed. And somewhere, in the neighborhood, a question hung in the air. What would happen next? The aftermath of the chaotic party lingered like a dark cloud over Maplewood Estates. The once pristine neighborhood now looked bruised and battered. Trash still littered the streets, and the clubhouse wore scars of overturned tables and broken glass. But it wasn't just the physical damage that unsettled the residents. It was the growing fear and uncertainty about what this night meant for their community. Word spread fast, the story of Karen's secret party and the unexpected arrival of Duke the Bull became the talk of every porch, backyard, and social media thread. Neighbors debated the event's implications, many struggling to understand how the HOA, the very body supposed to protect their peace, could be the source of such turmoil. Alex, meanwhile, found himself at the center of the storm. Calls and messages flooded his phone. Curious neighbors wanted to know more about Duke's sudden appearance, while others blamed him for letting his bull loose in the neighborhood. Even some who had supported Alex before now questioned whether having a bull in the community was safe. One particularly tense morning, Alex stood outside his home when Mrs. Thompson, a mother of two across the street, approached him with a worried expression. "Alex, I love Duke, but after last night, people are scared," she said quietly. "What if he had charged someone? We need answers." Alex nodded. "I'm taking every precaution. Duke's usually calm, but last night was unpredictable. The noise and chaos could have frightened him." Mrs. Thompson's eyes softened. "We just want to feel safe." Alex understood. This was about more than just a bull or a wild party. It was about trust. Trust in the HOA, trust in their neighbors, and trust in the fragile balance that held Maplewood Estates together. That evening, as Alex reviewed his fence and double-checked Duke's enclosure, his phone buzzed with a new message. This time from the HOA board. "Meeting tomorrow morning. Mandatory attendance. Urgent discussion on recent events." Alex's stomach tightened. The board's reaction would shape the future of the neighborhood, and possibly his own place in it. The next day, the community center was packed. Faces filled with a mix of anger, fear, and exhaustion gathered under fluorescent lights. Karen sat at the head of the room, her posture defiant but eyes wary. The HOA president opened the meeting with a stern tone. We are here to address the violations that have endangered our community and damaged the reputation of this neighborhood. Last night's party was unauthorized and reckless. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Karen stood, her voice steady but sharp. I organized the event to bring the community together. If some of you felt threatened, I apologize. But this neighborhood needs more life, not less control. Alex raised his hand. With all due respect, Karen, your party broke the rules and endangered people, including my bull who escaped because of the noise and chaos. Karen shot him a cold glare. Blaming the bull for your mistakes won't help. The room grew tense. Then came the most unexpected moment. A soft voice from the back spoke up. We're all frustrated, said Mrs. Simmons, the neighbor who had first warned Alex. But maybe this is a sign we need to rethink how our HOA works. Rules are important, but so is community. We need balance, not battles. Her words echoed. Slowly, the room began to murmur in agreement. The conflict had sparked a deeper conversation, one about fairness, leadership, and what the neighborhood truly needed. But just as the meeting seemed to shift toward resolution, Karen's phone buzzed. She glanced down, face pale. Then she abruptly stood. I have to leave, she said tightly, striding toward the door. Alex watched her go, the tension between them unresolved. Outside, the sun dipped low again, casting long shadows over Maplewood Estates. Alex returned home, passing Duke in his pen. The bull chewed calmly, unaware of the battles raging beyond the pasture. As darkness fell, Alex wondered what the future held. The party had been a disaster, but the fallout was only beginning, and the question lingered. Could the neighborhood survive the storm Karen had unleashed? That evening, a restless tension gripped Maplewood Estates. The fallout from Karen's reckless party and the bull's unexpected appearance had unsettled the entire community, and whispers of what would come next spread like wildfire. The neighborhood felt charged, as if something was waiting just beneath the surface, ready to explode. Alex sat on his porch, staring out at the dimly lit street. The hum of distant traffic was faint, but the air seemed heavy, thick with anticipation. Duke stood nearby, calm and steady, but even the bull seemed to sense the unease. His phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number blinked on the screen. You think you can control this neighborhood? Think again. Alex's heart skipped a beat. He stared at the message, then glanced around. The street was quiet, too quiet. He showed the message to Mrs. Simmons, who had stopped by with her usual cup of tea. Her eyes widened. That's not just a threat, it's a warning. Alex nodded grimly. Someone's trying to intimidate me. As the night deepened, strange things began to happen. A loud crash shattered the silence from the direction of the clubhouse. Alex and Mrs. Simmons rushed toward the sound, hearts pounding. The clubhouse door hung off its hinges, swinging wildly in the breeze. Inside, overturned furniture and broken glass littered the floor, a clear message of vandalism. This isn't random, Mrs. Simmons whispered. Someone's angry. Alex's mind raced. Was this retaliation for last night, or something bigger? Suddenly, a sharp snort echoed behind them. Duke was there, standing like a silent guardian amid the wreckage, his eyes glowing in the moonlight. Alex reached out, resting a steady hand on Duke's massive head. The bull seemed calm, but his presence was a powerful reminder that the neighborhood's chaos was far from over. They heard footsteps approaching and turned to see a figure slip into the shadows. Who's there? Alex called. No answer. As they cautiously followed, a flash of movement caught Alex's eye, a silhouette darting between the trees near the edge of his property. Without thinking, Alex ran after it, heart pounding. But the figure disappeared into the darkness. Returning to the clubhouse, Alex found Mrs. Simmons already on the phone, reporting the vandalism to the police. We need to stick together, she said firmly. This is more than just a neighborhood dispute now, Alex agreed. His mind churned with questions. Who was behind the threats? Why target him and the clubhouse? And how far would this shadow war go? As dawn broke over Maplewood Estates, the neighborhood awoke to a new reality. The wild party, the bull's dramatic appearance, and now the vandalism. They were all pieces of a larger puzzle. And Alex knew one thing for certain. The battle for the soul of Maplewood was only just beginning. The sun cast long morning shadows across Maplewood Estates, but the darkness from the night before still clung to the neighborhood like a stubborn fog. The vandalism at the clubhouse had shaken everyone, and whispered fears rippled through every conversation. Alex woke early, determined to get to the bottom of the threats and sabotage. He knew someone was orchestrating this chaos. And it wasn't just Karen or the angry neighbors. The question was who? He met with Mrs. Simmons over coffee, both uneasy but resolved. "We need to find out who's really behind this," Alex said. "The threats? The vandalism? It feels personal." Mrs. Simmons nodded. "And dangerous. I've lived here for 20 years. Nothing like this has ever happened." Alex's phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number. "Stop digging or things will get worse." His jaw tightened. He forwarded the message to a trusted friend, Jake, a former cop who still lived nearby. Jake agreed to help Alex discreetly investigate. That afternoon, Alex began reviewing security footage from neighborhood cameras. Many had been installed after complaints about petty theft and vandalism over the years. He hoped they might reveal something. Someone lurking near the clubhouse or his property. Hours passed with little progress, until a shadowy figure appeared on one grainy clip, moving quickly just after midnight near the clubhouse. Alex zoomed in. The figure was too blurred to identify, but their movements were deliberate, almost stealthy. His heart pounded. This was no random vandal. It was someone planning, watching. Jake arrived as dusk fell, bringing a small team of local contacts who could assist quietly. They agreed to set up surveillance around the clubhouse and Alex's property that night, as darkness descended. The neighborhood held its breath. Hidden in the shadows, Alex and Jake's team watched the clubhouse, their eyes scanning for any sign of movement. Hours passed. Then, just before midnight, a soft rustling came from the nearby bushes. A figure emerged, this time unmistakably a woman. She moved cautiously, but with purpose, carrying something wrapped in a dark cloth. Alex's breath caught. Could this be Karen? Or someone else pulling strings behind the scenes? The woman paused near the clubhouse, pulled the cloth away, and revealed a stack of flyers. The flyers bore the Maplewood Estates HOA logo, but with scathing words beneath. "Stop the tyranny of the HOA. Karen's rule ends now." Alex felt a cold wave wash over him. This was no innocent protest. It was an act of rebellion designed to divide the community further. Suddenly, the woman turned, her eyes locking with Alex's from across the dark. Recognition sparked. It was someone Alex never expected, a longtime neighbor who had been quietly critical of the HOA, but never openly hostile. Before Alex could react, she disappeared into the shadows. The team moved in to investigate, but she was gone. Alex stood there, heart racing. The neighborhood's battle had deeper roots than he'd imagined. Personal grudges, hidden agendas, and a simmering resentment threatening to boil over. As the first light of dawn crept in, Alex knew the war for Maplewood. Estates was no longer just about a party or a bull. It was about uncovering the secrets lurking beneath the surface and facing the dark shadows within his own community. The morning after the late-night confrontation, Maplewood Estates felt different. The air was thick with tension, but also anticipation. Alex knew the neighborhood was on the edge, ready to explode or to heal, depending on what came next. At the HOA emergency meeting that afternoon, the community gathered once more. This time, there was no music, no parties, just a crowd waiting for answers. Alex took a deep breath as he stepped to the front, prepared to share what he had uncovered. He recounted the security footage, the midnight stakeout, and the identity of the mysterious woman distributing divisive flyers. Mrs. Gardner, a longtime resident known for her quiet demeanor but deep frustration with the HOA's leadership. The room buzzed with murmurs and surprised glances. Karen's face twisted into a sneer. So the neighborhood's chaos was orchestrated by someone playing both sides? Mrs. Gardner stood, calm but resolute. I'm tired of the HOA controlling everything, making decisions without listening to us. Karen's reckless party was just the spark. This community needs real change. The HOA president tried to regain control. This infighting is tearing us apart. We must find a way to move forward. Just then, Alex surprised everyone with his proposal. We all want the neighborhood to be safe, welcoming, and united. But that won't happen with secrets, fear, and power struggles. It's time for a new approach, one that respects rules but also listens to the people. Karen scoffed but remained silent. Alex continued. I suggest forming a community council with representatives from all sides, including neighbors like Mrs. Gardner and even Karen if she's willing. We can create transparent guidelines, organize events responsibly, and restore trust. The room fell silent. Then slowly, hands began to raise in support. The tension began to dissolve, replaced by cautious hope. After the meeting, as people filed out, Karen approached Alex privately. This isn't over, she whispered, eyes sharp. You think your bull and your little rebellion will change the neighborhood? Watch your back. Alex met her gaze evenly. Maybe it's time for a neighborhood that works for everyone, not just the loudest voices. As Karen walked away, Alex felt a weight lift, but also understood the challenges ahead. Back at his property, Duke waited patiently. Alex patted the bull's broad head. You did good, boy, he said softly. You weren't just crashing a party. You were a wake-up call. The community wasn't perfect, but for the first time in months, Maplewood Estates had a chance to heal. And as the sun set over the peaceful streets, Alex knew that sometimes it took a bull in the clubhouse and a whole lot of courage to bring change.